Good evening, everyone. It's my privilege to be chatting to you, and the title of my talk is Why a Good Diet Needs Help. And this is because there are some changes to food that you may not know about. The reason I'm doing this talk is because a fairly well-known nutrition company came to my son's school and offered them a 50% discount if they would buy from them. And their pitch was that most people would eat good food if they could, but time is the issue. So instead, we default to fast food. And so let us, as this nutrition company, cook you good food and you buy it from us. And their slogan is, because we can't supplement our way to health. And this threw me because the company I partner with, Neolife, is all about supplements. Neolife is supplements are us. But then I did a bit of research, and this is what I'd like to share with you. Here are some photos of immune boosting fresh foods that I took. And you can see that these so-called fresh foods have been imported from China. And that's unexpected, especially when they're in that netting. I would expect that to have come from somewhere local. So with a little bit more research, I found that most of our wheat is imported, and I'm sure you're all aware of that by now. It's imported from Russia and the Ukraine. Our rice is imported from Thailand and India, and even our fresh veggies are like tomatoes and onions are imported from India and Nigeria and Germany. And what is the problem with that? Well, there is no regulation on what pesticides, herbicides, or fungicides are used on imported foods. So also, how fresh can they be? If they're coming from places like China and Germany, they would need to be on a container ship and not just picked and then transported to your local grocery store the next day. So perhaps you're thinking, all right, I'll just support local then. Well, have a look at this photo. I took this photo on the 23rd of March, 2021. And now look at the date code. The date code reads 7/3/20. Not so hard to figure out. So it was harvested, those apples were harvested on the 7th of the 3rd in 2020. So a year before they were put on the shelf at my local grocery store. So that must mean that they've been kept in cold storage. And they can't have been kept in cold storage without having been dipped in some preservative. Otherwise, they would go brown and wrinkly and no one would buy them. So they are harvested early, kept in cold storage, covered in preservative, artificially ripened. And all this means that at the end of the day, you get a less nutritious fruit, less of the antioxidants, less of the vitamins that you were expecting when you are trying to eat those 5 a day that they tell you to. So perhaps now you're thinking, well, I never liked apples anyway. Let's stick to oranges. They're full of vitamin C. Well, apart from a similar cold storage scenario, just how many oranges do you need to eat to get the amount of vitamin C the body needs on a daily basis? And the answer is approximately 4. And this is perhaps another fact that you weren't aware of. I certainly wasn't. Fruits and veggies and herbs don't have standardized amounts of vitamins in them. So when you look at this photo that I took, where I bought oranges from 3 different local grocery stores, and they're all different sizes, all different qualities, and who knows what amounts of vitamin C in them, you just can't tell. And, oranges don't just have 20 milligrams of vitamin C in them. You don't know. It all depends on the storage and the harvesting and how long they've been standing on the shelf. This is a photo I came across, and I always find it fascinating how much we do for animals. But for humans, we were like, figure it out on your own. So why is bread no longer good? Why is bread no longer good, even for birds, even for wild birds, even for pigeons? And the reason is, as you can see, I highlighted there, the main ingredient is refined flour, where all the nutritious part of the grain has been removed. So bread no longer has anything good in it. And you can test that. When last have you seen a piece of moldy bread? bread goes stale, but it doesn't go moldy anymore. So bread is a product of something called modern day milling, which is aimed at improving the shelf life of whole grain foods. And this is what modern day milling is. They take the whole grain and they remove the bran and they remove the middlings, they remove the wheat germ, and they remove something quite essential, the wheat germ oil. And then the result is this white flour that we make all our pasta out of, our cakes, our pastries, and our bread. In fact, there's a step missing there. We even bleach what's left over because it's not that pretty white color. It's a sort of a yellowy white. And I'm sure if you know about bleach, bleach just weakens and strips further. All right, so now you're thinking, well, I'll just buy brown bread. So check the ingredients, because brown bread, this is advertised, another photo I took is advertised as low GI seeded whole wheat brown bread. But if you go to the ingredients, you can see the first ingredient there says white bread wheat flour. So they've just thrown a couple of handfuls of bran and wheat bran back in, but it's not actually made from the whole kernel or has anything good in it. All right, so let's move on to protein. And you can see the two products I took photos of here. They're advertised as a high protein product, but there is sugar listed in the ingredients. And why is there sugar in our meat? Well, because of the preservatives nitrite and nitrate. They make the taste of these meats quite bitter. And without sugar, no one would eat the delicious meats like bacon and ham and Viennas, sausages. So do you know that there is a study out that has shown that there is a link between having 12 hot dogs a month and childhood leukemia? So that's something to consider when we pack our kids' lunch boxes. Well, let's look at organic protein then. Again, a photo that I've taken, and you can see there's a marked difference in color. But really, organic just means that the chickens have been fed less foods that are sprayed with the conventional pesticides, herbicides, and everything else. And by the way, in order to get the good protein from eggs, you would need to know if these eggs have been fertilized. And how would you know that unless you followed the rooster around? And you would also need to eat the shell. So you can't get all the fantastic protein that is advertised by just eating eggs. This is a fairly well-known graphic. You can find it on most cancer websites. And these are the links that you need in your food to prevent cancer. Studies have been done in this regard on lab rats. And when they wanted to cause cancer in the rats, they would introduce a carcinogen like the nitrites and nitrates that you saw in the processed meat. And if the rat had all 6 of these links in its food, it could fight off the cancer agents. But if even one of the links was missing, it would get cancer just like that. So suddenly, perhaps this healthy lunchbox is not as healthy as it first looks. Perhaps the crackers are made from refined white flour. The grapes have been artificially ripened. The tomatoes have probably been imported, and the meat, the ham, has been processed with all those carcinogens in it. So we can see that our food is not as nutritious as it used to be. But wouldn't it be wonderful if there was a supplement, a food supplement that provided everything we needed to enable our bodies to fight off cancer cells? Well, there is, and this is exactly why I'm so passionate about Neolife. This is one of their foundation products, Formula 4, and it has everything in the correct amounts for humans. And it has been so meticulously researched that they can actually find trace amounts of these products in the cells after you swallow these food supplements. So that means that the cells are choosing to use them above what you would put in your body. So if we were to go back to that food company that advertised that there's no way to supplement yourself way to good health, you can see that there's no way that they are also able, from a food point of view, to provide everything that the body needs to fight off. We have to supplement, but you need to get a good supplement. Another thing to go and look, if you subscribe to a food company, is to look for fish foods, and there aren't that many out there, and you need those omega-3s because they help with so many issues. And I can tell you many stories about how omega-3 has just improved things like people who suffer from migraines, people who need joint comfort, healthy eyes and brain function. But I think the most important thing is the treanin, because this is our whole grain oils. Remember, those have been stripped out of the wheat kernel, so we no longer get that. But if you just take treanin, which by the way is included in this Formula 4 supplement, but if you just took treanin by itself, which you can do, you would improve your nutrition by up to 50%, because this lovely product is so relevant to every cell in our body. It helps the cell membrane absorb the good nutrition that you give it and get rid of the toxins. So just taking a treanin. And then if you are worried about your protein intake, having looked at those protein meats and even organic versus regular eggs, this protein powder that we sell, the Neolife Shake, has a better protein score than an egg. And as I mentioned, the salmon oil, so good for so many things. And then finally, a fruit and veggie as a food supplement. And there you can see all the healthy things that are put into each capsule, and they are put in a nitrogen environment so that none of the nutrition is lost. They are imported. The foods are imported from all over the world, the best foods that you can get from the farms that use the least pesticides and herbicides and everything like that. So you can just see that Neolife really aims to help. They say eat as healthy as you can, but it is impossible to get everything you can just from food. So we need to supplement, and Neolife is the best whole food supplements company worldwide, and you can go and research that for yourself. So thank you for listening to me. I trust this has been an eye-opener, and that you will indeed start supplementing as soon as possible.